A husband's promotion dinner. A restaurant full of colleagues, champagne, and applause. At the center of it all sits Daniel Voss, successful, celebrated, and completely exposed. He told his pregnant wife, Sophia, the dinner was a small team gathering. No partners invited. Too chaotic, too professional. He told his girlfriend, Camille, that Sophia was his ex, that the pregnancy was a complicated situation they were quietly resolving, that it was almost over. He believed he had engineered the perfect evening, but he forgot one person, his mother-in-law. In a few moments, Elena Morales will walk through that restaurant door. She wasn't supposed to be in town. She is carrying a gift bag, a congratulations on the baby card, and absolutely zero patience for her son-in-law's lies. The Meridian was the kind of restaurant that made a man feel invincible. Dark wood paneling, candlelight soft enough to flatter everyone, a wine list that cost more than most people's car payments. Daniel had chosen it deliberately. Power settings demanded power backdrops. Sophia Voss had always understood the architecture of her husband's ambitions. She had built her life around them, quietly, loyally, without complaint. For 7 years, she had been the steady foundation beneath everything Daniel constructed. And now, 7 months pregnant with their first child, she was the thing he was most eager to hide. Sophia was home when Daniel kissed her forehead and said the words she had been turning over ever since. "It's really just a work thing, Soph. Boring speeches, firm handshakes. You'd be miserable, and honestly, you need the rest." She had nodded. She had smiled. She had watched his car disappear down the street. Then she had sat with the feeling. It wasn't the excuse itself that unsettled her. It was the precision of it, the way he had preemptively named her exhaustion, her discomfort, her need to stay home. He had built the cage and handed her the key, making it feel like freedom. The signs had been accumulating for 4 months, hushed phone calls that ended the moment she appeared, a weekend conference in Portland that produced no photographs, no stories, no colleagues she could name, a distance in his eyes that had nothing to do with stress and everything to do with someone else. She had said nothing. She was 7 months pregnant and terrified that asking the question meant receiving the answer. Then her mother had called. "I landed early, Mija. Surprise, I thought I'd come to Daniel's dinner, show some support. I already have the address." Sophia had gone very still. "He said no partners, Mama." "Funny," her mother said, "because his assistant invited me herself 2 weeks ago." The cage door swung open. Camille Perrault looked stunning and felt invincible. She had met Daniel 8 months ago at a branding summit, drawn in by his confidence, his humor, the way he listened like she was the only person in the room. He had been honest with her, he said, or honest enough. "Sophia and I co-parent, essentially. The pregnancy was unplanned. We live separate lives under the same roof. For logistics, for now, it's being handled." Camille had accepted this. These things were complicated. Adults navigated them. She wasn't naive. She was patient. And tonight, sitting beside him at the long, glittering table, his hand resting on her chair, his colleagues toasting his name, she felt like the future arriving right on schedule. She smoothed her dress, touched the gold bracelet Daniel had clasped around her wrist last week, and smiled. She had no idea the door at the front of the restaurant had just opened. She had no idea what 7 months pregnant looked like walking toward her in a black coat, eyes clear and absolutely certain. The room noticed her before Daniel did. A ripple of recognition moved through his colleagues, Sophia Voss, his wife, unmistakably, visibly pregnant, walking through the Meridian with her mother at her side and an expression on her face that stopped conversation cold. Daniel saw her at the exact moment she saw Camille's hand resting on his arm. Everything happened slowly, the way disasters always do, each second stretching to accommodate the full weight of what was unraveling. He stood. He said her name. He said something about surprise and confusion and a misunderstanding, the usual architecture of a caught man. But Sophia wasn't looking at him. She was looking at Camille. And Camille, for the first time, was looking at the pregnancy, really looking and understanding, with a clarity that felt like cold water, what its being handled had actually meant. He told me you were separated, Camille said. It wasn't an accusation. It was barely a whisper. A woman realizing she had been a prop in someone else's story. He told me, Sophia said, her voice steady, one hand resting on her stomach, that you didn't exist. It was Alina who silenced the room completely. She set the gift bag on the table, right in the center, between the champagne flutes and the silverware, and looked at her son-in-law with the calm devastation of a woman who had seen this before in other families, in other men, and had always known this one was capable of it. My daughter, Alina said quietly, has been defending you for 7 months. While she was sick in the mornings and alone at night, she was defending you. Daniel opened his mouth. She didn't let him. She is carrying your child, and you brought another woman to a table full of people who know her name. The silence was total. Not one colleague moved. Not one glass clinked. Daniel Voss, in the restaurant he had chosen for its power, surrounded by the audience he had carefully curated, had never been smaller. Sophia left without a scene. She didn't need one. The truth had already filled every corner of that room without her raising her voice once. In the months that followed, she built something new, slower, quieter, and entirely hers. Her daughter was born in the spring. She named her Alina. Some betrayals don't happen in the dark. They happen in the open, at a lit table, surrounded by witnesses, because the person doing it never believed they would be held accountable. Sophia's greatest strength wasn't walking through that door. It was what she chose to build after she walked out of it. If this story moved you, give it a like and share it with someone who needs to be reminded your dignity is never the thing that has to stay quiet. Subscribe and hit the bell. We have more stories of women who chose themselves, and they're coming soon.